Hey everybody, welcome to Monday Night in Lexington. I'm Kathryn Kauffman and I'm a psychic medium here in Lexington, Kentucky. Shifu Careaga, he is owner of Blue Lotus Acupuncture and the director of Wu Tao Academy School of Chinese Martial Arts. He has a BS in electrical engineering and an MS in Oriental medicine. And what we're talking about tonight is the recent advancements in electrical and plasma physics. And I imagine, Shifu, your study in electrical engineering kind of spurred that on your interest in that area. While people are getting their notifications before we start, I wanted to remind you guys that this next month's monthly giveaway is this quartz crystal pendulum. So if you want to get in on the drawing, just go to my timeline, Kathryn Kauffman, and go see the posting for this and put your name in the comments section. Hey Ricky, hey Leanne, so we've got a couple of people joining us here. I also want to remind you guys that all of these Monday Night Live episodes are going to be loaded up onto my YouTube channel. And they will also be, this episode will also be on your YouTube channel as well. So without further ado, let's get into some electrical and plasma physics. What is this field of study exactly, Shifu? And there's going to be a lot of people who may not follow this because it can get a little bit in depth. What we're going to do is we're going to put some links in the comments section. If you are interested in learning more about what we're talking about tonight, there will be plenty of links for you to follow, to do some more reading, and to find out more about it. Let me do a couple of shout outs here. Hey Leanne, hey Lana, Andrea, Trish, and hey Cheryl, Debbie. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Hey Trish. I want to remind you guys, hi to Wisconsin, that any questions that you have for us, just type in the comments section. If we don't get it during this broadcast, one of us will go back and answer that question in the comments. So tell us what this is that we're, what is this that we're talking about?
I was going to say, I got a BS and BS, yeah? So, all right, so first of all, you know, electricity is a pretty big yes, you're right. I mean, I obviously been interested in energy a long time.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't know when I entered in college that was really what I was interested in. I thought it was just computers. Mm-hmm. But electricity is really kind of all around us and is going everywhere. Most people are more familiar with magnetic fields. There's some scientific reasons for that, but there's some history, let's say. But electric fields are actually all over the place.
I find it fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, well, every time there's a magnetic field, there's an electric field.
Because, you know, what we do, if we're going out on investigations, we deal with a lot of electrical field anomalies.
That's right.
And when I do the haunted items hunt, we deal with items that have an abnormal electrical field.
That's right. And in the clinic, frequently, you know, when someone is expelling energies, the lights will flicker and things will happen. Mm-hmm. I've had multiple people who've had, you know, printers print off images of people who've passed on.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
And then the video changing channels. I've had people ask me for secrets of the universe and heaven turned off the computer, you know. So there are really interesting, deep, hyperdimensional subjects. But even in the regular mundane dimension, we'll call it, mm-hmm. We really haven't examined plasma all the way and electricity. An electric field is a mathematical relationship. All fields are. So chi fields, magnetic fields, electrical mm-hmm. fields are a relationship. Plasma is the extra step where, you know, we have liquids, solids, and gases. Plasma is the movement of electrons through those fields, and it has basically three modes. It has a dark mode, it has a kind of a light filament mode, and mm-hmm. then it has something you see like in the sun where it's really, really powerful, really very hot. Lightning is another great example of that. Mm-hmm. And there's really interesting interactions that are happening that we haven't been aware of until very recently.
So would you call lightning a plasma?
It is. Lightning's a plasma. Actually, the candle, the wick, there's plasma discharge happening in that. The aurora borealis is perhaps one of the most classic.
That is a natural phenomena that is just unbelievable.
That's right. And if the EU cosmology is correct, the aurora borealis would be happening a lot more throughout the world rather than just the northern and southern lights.
So when you say EU, what are you talking about?
The electric universe is, so there's the plasma cosmologists, which have been active really ever since the 19th century. And they're an alternate cosmology, but there's a lot of really interesting things going on in that cosmology. And in the electric universe, people took that to a new level starting in the 80s and 90s. There was a documentary, Remembering the End of the World, and they combined it with the sciences of archaeology, anthropology, geology, and they have come up with their entire own cosmology of how things were created, kind of throwing out the Big Bang a lot. And there's a lot of problems with the standard model that have been swept under the rug, and they're trying to answer those. And one of the new things they're doing is Project Sapphire. It's in phase 2. Phase 1 had some really interesting, promising things.
What is Project Sapphire about?
Literally, they put one of these orbs. So I brought a demonstration device.
We got tools.
And they have one of these orbs, which is called the anode, in the center. And then the cathode is on the outside, and they would run it. So phase 1 was a larger version of this ball run with a lot more electricity. What they found were actual atmospheres, just like we see on the sun. And one of the problems the sun has always had in their nuclear model is that it should be super hot at the surface and even hotter as you go in, but the sunspots are dark and cool, and the corona is actually hotter as you go.
In the core.
And the electrons accelerate away from the star. And there's also problems using comets. The comets don't explode when they get near the star, but usually when they're going away.
Because it's hotter.
Well, no, not because it's hotter. They'll sometimes explode out by Saturn or Jupiter, but because a coronal mass ejection will go out and will hit the charged comet and make it explode.
So this kind of was it a representation of what they were looking at?
The problem is, the reason why they didn't do this before is the temperatures are so insane. We're talking on the order of 10,000, 12,000, 20,000 degrees. So phase 2, they have a larger chamber, and they have to run huge cooling through it. What you see here is what we would call a low voltage plasma chamber. And,
it's pretty cool.
Plasma is cool. It is, it's webs. It's what we see when we see the galaxies all strung together, like pearls on a string with the galaxies aligned statistically and possibly to be aligned just like that. What we see are webs moving. I think most people associate this with the only form, you can touch it, the only form of plasma that they encounter. But there's a whole lot of other things. And here's a demonstration I brought for the electric field. A lot of people, so this is a CFL bulb. And as I get closer, you see it lights up.
Yeah. Why does that happen?
Well, that's because the electric field is still going, even though it's ended. That's right. So you can see it gets more active as I get closer to, and then when I touch it, there's an actual connection. And if you're smelling anything, that's the ozone that's being created on the outside of the globe. The inside is an inert gas.
Why does the light stop at the glass?
It goes through the inert gas, and then it connects to the cathode, and it fingers out. So when it fingers out like that, it just changes the spectrum.
Now, when I did some research on the plasma electric universe, which is basically what we're talking about, on a larger scale, they were talking about, and I can see it here, the electric field going through the universe actually is in torsion, and I can kind of see that.
That's
here.
right. Those are called Birkeland currents, so it's a little bit more advanced. That's where this has unfortunately stopped us, because this was our greatest imagination of plasma until very recently. And Birkeland currents there's a lot more torsion going on. There's a lot more self-feeding. There's these things called double sheath. And so that helps to recycle the energy. And the basic idea here is that the sun is in a co-relationship with other planets and stars. And indeed, even the galaxy itself feeds electricity through these Birkeland currents in dark mode all the way to the star, and they recharge. And even better, the galaxies give birth. So when you look at the Andromeda Galaxy, they found all these small galaxies, and those small galaxies, or even sometimes quasars, are actually like children of the galaxy. There's a man named Halton Arp, and for political reasons he was kind of sniped, But Houghton Arp has more than 300 galaxies named after him.
Wow.
And he basically disproved the idea that redshift is only about distance. I'm not going to say it's not about distance, but he proved that there were quasars attached to galaxies, and that their redshifts were impossibly related. They were right next to each other, and yet the redshift was showing one was much younger or nearer than the other one. And so a lot of research showing you can definitely check out one of his books.
Are there any other references about this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, going back to the 19th century, there was a whole lot of work with the electric universe. There are famous scientists who said that they thought gravity, because the equations are so similar, that gravity would eventually be proven to be magnetic. And relatively speaking, the E fields are 10 to the 39 times stronger than gravity. So that's not 39 times. That's a 10 with 39 zeros after it. So
we need to do, there's a lot more. We've just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so much going on. I mean, when Velikovsky wrote his book Worlds in Collision in 1950, it really opened some wounds in the scientific community, because there had been a lot of burial, a lot of Einstein cults going on, and he made some predictions that, when they turned out to be true, kind of blew the establishment's mind.
You mean Velikovsky?
Velikovsky.
He made those predictions.
Yeah, he predicted that Venus would be going backwards, and that it would be super hot instead of very cold or watery, like everybody thought it was an alien planet, basically. He predicted that there would be hydrocarbons in its atmosphere. He predicted the moon would be differentially heated, and that it would have water on it, and that we wouldn't find water on Mars. So he made all these predictions, and the establishment basically said that he was just lucky. But it's all electrical universe, right?
There's no way.
Right. Yeah. It was all electric universe.
Let me go through and make sure we don't have any questions here. Hey, Leanne. Hey, Cynthia. As Trish and Melinda and Sharon, and Arwen's watching. Kisses, Arwen.
Hey, babe.
Let me make sure we don't have any questions. Steve Jagoda. Hey, to Louisville. Hey, Yasmin. Jennifer. Let's go down through. I don't think I see any questions right at this point, other than Sharon May Maddox wants one of these things.
I got it at Walmart for $20, I think. It was in the candle section or something.
Hey, Paige. And then there's Chastity and Jennifer Welch. Hey, girl, how are you? So if you guys have any questions, please just type them in. And Jean Matthews McHatton is watching also. So just chime in if you have a question. Like I said, if we don't get to it in the broadcast, one of us will address it in the comments after. What is a plasma web, plasma movement, or a plasma orb? That's is this what we're looking at?
Yeah, it really could be all over the place. One of my interests in this is, thinking about the possibility of ley lines, thinking about the possibility of the connections between people.
Energetic
connections.
Yeah.
And I have another paper where I made a theory that because of the rings in DNA, that you have electricity flowing actually at the chromosomal level. And then as you bring up your chi, or you charge up, essentially what you're doing is raising your electrical level and aligning those chromosomes so they're not all twisted. And when they're aligned like that, there might possibly be a plasma flow between people, or between you and the tree, or you and the rock, the crystal. The possibility of these webs being almost everywhere.
Well, I know when I was watching some shows about some of the Russian psychics that could do psychokinesis, and the measurements that they took on the people while they were experimenting with the psychokinesis, their electrical fields were higher.
Yeah, there's more energy. You and I both know that. You have more energy. The question is, how do we find it? Now, the standard model has been to talk about things that no one can find: dark matter, dark energy. And here, the question, it might have been with us the whole time. In nature, you have animals who can sense changes in the electric field down to the nanometer. At the nanometer level, you're still talking about a field that is still 1,000 trillion times stronger than gravity. So I don't know what our obsession with gravity is. Probably because at a macro level, it seems to be in control. But in the reality of the universal scale and in the atom molecular scale, electricity is really flowing everywhere, and it's determining a lot of. And there's some really cool mystical things about electricity too. You can't explain it without the imaginary number.
All right.
Right. These are really, and they just gloss over that, but that's actually quite a deep.
We're not looking at that.
That's right. That's right. So there's movement everywhere. There's these webs. You see them in nature. You see them on the galactic level. And the possibility that galaxies are giving birth to new galaxies, as well as, of course, stars. The possibility that stars are giving birth to planets.
Well, we have to consider this, especially with this latest thing of
that's right.
the planets that were discovered.
That's right. So TRAPPIST-1, this is a really interesting one because you're talking about, first of all, a red dwarf star. It's the size of Jupiter, and the planets are so close to it that accretion theory can't possibly explain because the dust wouldn't be able to accumulate at that close range. The solar wind would push them away,
right,
and or gravity would pull it in towards the star. So the question is, where did those planets come from, considering its gravity is too weak? We're talking about a star that's only 8/100th the mass of our sun. And how does it have 7 planets that are terrestrial planets, large planets?
Right.
So it's possible that the star actually is so weak because it's been giving birth to. And this is where the EU people, they think we came from. This is where
our other model may fit in.
That's right. And there is... Velikovsky, one of the things that his big deal was his idea that Venus came from Jupiter and came out of the red spot. And, it was a very controversial idea, and yet we see things like Venus's rotations backwards, and it's now slowing down. It's been confirmed. It's slowed down 6 whole minutes,
wow.
Which means it didn't form from accretion theory, so where did the planet come from? Either the sun captured it or it came out of another system. Why does Jupiter and Saturn have so many moons, whereas our sun only has a few? It might be that our sun actually came into the solar system later and stole various bodies from the gas giants.
I think this is kind of exciting because
it is exciting.
Opens up a whole new area for us to consider and discover and,
Well, yeah, and it provides other answers too. So a lot of people may not know this, but we have Adena Hopewell cultures that are in this area, from this area, and we know more about the Aztecs and the Mayans than them. And I was just up north in Ohio looking at the Great Serpent Mound, and I wasn't surprised to find this, but when I went up there, I found out that the snake head wasn't even connected. So what I see in this is I see the possibility of Venus and a plasma trail coming off of the back and going, and we see these petroglyphs all over. I see them in Kentucky rock art, I see them in Ohio rock art, I see them in the Nazca, Australia,
they're all over the world.
Over. These plasma.
This type is symbol too.
Yeah, and this all goes back to the plasmoid shape. So plasmoids are one of the more interesting features of plasma that haven't been talked about a lot. There's really great research done from the Los Alamos laboratories, and these plasma shapes have been used to describe why galaxies rotate the way they do because the standard model can't account for them. And the plasmoids actually they behave like living cells. They do things, they divide, and they adjust shape, and they're very fascinating, the plasma physics right now that's happening. It's a growing field, and it's getting harder and harder to put it down to just coincidence.
The torsion of this, what do you call that, a plasma ball?
Well, yeah, we call that the plasma ball. It's just got it's a really simple one. It's just an anode, cathode, it's got an inner gas. Well,
what I was thinking is just that torsion kind of reminds me actually of DNA. And everything, if you look at the micro mimics everything.
That's right. That's right.
So
yeah, the way that our nerves are laid out, that's ion flow. Why we need minerals, we need ions. So it's quite possible that really everything has been about the movement of these energies, and that when you get down to it, the inside of inside the atomic cell, that every one of those particles is really just about differential charges, and that their masses only appear to change because of energy level. So the idea being that I don't just feel stronger when I have chi, but I actually have more density.
Right.
And that a person, when they appear to age, or when a person dies and they appear to shrink, might be because they're losing charge, they're losing plasma, they're actually losing some type of material that we haven't yet had the tools to measure because the electric fields are too small for our machines.
Right.
They're still incredibly powerful.
Or we don't have good enough equipment
That's right.
Or specific, I should say, specific enough equipment.
That's right, yeah. I'd say the Russians are probably leading us in production because they're interested in this stuff. They really are.
Probably.
And they have the best, now Eastern Europe has some of the best crystal therapy research going on because they're looking at it a different way than has ever been looked at. The research is all ongoing, and that's the hard thing. That's why Sapphire Phase 2 is very exciting. They will release their latest updates this year.
Okay,
and we're talking levels of 20,000 degrees.
People want to know more about this Project Sapphire. Where do they go to find out?
Well, I'm going to create that primer for everybody, but they'll need to go to the Project Thunderbolts website or .info. And there's also a channel, and it has the documentary, it has the Remembering the End of the World, but it also has symbols of an ancient sky or an alien sky, I think it is. And I recommend starting with episode 2 because it's the one about Mars, and it's the most visual. It's a lot less challenging to the cosmology. Of course, they can always read the science. They can look at Houghton Arp's books on galaxies, and they can look at Velikovsky's Worlds in Collision. Now,
it's not spelled like we think Sapphire. It's what, S-A-F-I-R-E?
Yeah, that's the latest project. And in the links, I'll be providing a folder of EU evidences, and I have their paper from Phase 1. And it's a fascinating paper because you can see the atmosphere levels around the globe. So the plasma forming up to 15, they found it. And here's even more exciting. They found presence of H3+, which means that either there's an interesting interaction happening or fusion may have actually been happening in the Phase 1 chamber.
Okay, now tell people that don't know, what is H3+?
So basically the hydrogen gas interacting with other hydrogen gas, just like on the sun, and forming H3. So
okay, so we have a comment. Do you have a Facebook? Cynthia Lynch Carlson wants to know, do you have a Facebook page of upcoming things? Like, would you do he has a blog on the clinic website. Would you be open to making a post about this, or?
Yeah, I'm gonna have the primer. Of course, I have my Shifu Careaga YouTube channel, and then I have the clinic has its own for health related things. I'll be glad to have more talks, discussions, answer questions. I love talking about this. The thing is that, of course, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The science is probably likely to be a mix of the standard model and the new emerging model. We're running up against some barriers in the standard model, and they're not being answered. New papers coming out just last year proving dark matter. It may not be just broken, but not even a thing. And so, looking at those possibilities, here's another cool one. There's an app you can get about disaster prediction. They're using it now to work on earthquake stuff, and it's very accurate. It's not perfect, obviously, but this plasma physics is taking a lot of new
really
leads.
Exciting.
It's taking a lot of new directions.
Let me go back and make sure that we don't have any other questions. See, Cynthia says all of these things have taken a creator to design the complexities all throughout nature. Yes,
agree. Yes.
Absolutely. Hey,
yes,
Lolly.
There's consciousness throughout this whole thing.
So here's the next question. H3 is in 3 molecules, like O8 for oxygen molecules.
No, there's something different about the formation that they were finding, and I will link. I don't want to quote the paper because I didn't write it, but they actually provide in the paper about 8 different mechanisms. They do not know yet. Part of the whole point of Phase 2 is that they have longer Langmuir probes that they're going to be able to get more details and probe even when it's at 20,000 degrees. And these temperatures are so extreme that day one of you can watch them implementing it. Day one, it literally vaporized one of the screws in the chamber.
Wow.
Yeah, we're talking really, really strong. And in fact, there's a funny video I'll put up where a man demonstrates 2 of these hooked together with 250,000 volts, and you can watch what plasma does. It's pretty insane.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of power. And if there were these sort of cosmic thunderbolts etching the planets, etching Mars, etching the moon, accounting for the difference between the 2 sides of the moon, possibly etching the Earth and forming mountains, I think it's important science that we need to discover and need to look at.
It really is.
It could be a matter of explaining the sources of our religion, the sources of these strange Egyptian stories, the Greek stories. A lot of the God stories in that, they aren't moral stories. They're very immoral, if anything. So the question is, what are they talking about? Jupiter has Athena coming from his forehead. Was that Was that Jupiter creating Venus? We don't know.
Yeah, it could have been this cosmic birth that you.
It could have been cosmic
about.
birth, and the Kronos going away, or Ra going away, the movements of Mars and the wars, all the gods and the Valkyries. This is very interesting stuff.
We're just getting a small peek.
A very small peek.
So I'm really excited about it. The shapes that have been etched in, like you said, can you talk a little bit more about those?
Yeah, 1F in the Sapphire. The shapes, one of the most common shapes that are around the world is a circle, the sun being a circle with another circle inside of it, or sometimes two circles, which is not what we see in our sun.
That's an astrological.
It is astrological.
Yeah,
the point is, where would they get these astrological references? Around the world, every single culture.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the same thing, but with streams coming out. And then there's one that's a great man, and his hands are up, and he's got a dot here and a dot here under his armpits. And this is in cultures across the ponds, multiple ponds. Here we're talking, from Australia to South America. And where did these shapes come from? In the Kentucky rock art, we see these feet, these bird feet, but only 1 foot, and the offset a little bit, and they're hopping along. And why are they hopping along? Very interesting stories also from these cultures. Like, for example, in the Babylonian culture, the story of Mars nightly mating with Venus, nightly mating with her, and then providing the fertile land. These hydrocarbons, did they rain down on Earth? Did they were they manna? What are the kinds of things that we are seeing from biblical times? Where did the Sahara Desert come from? And what happened to Eden? It used to be savanna and grass. I mean, I don't personally think that you can desertify that much land with 1,000 feet of sand overnight, instantly, like that, in just a few thousand years. Yeah. And we know the Sphinx. We now know the Sphinx is older than the pyramids.
Yes, that really blew my mind when I
it's easily older.
That.
And we're looking at these multiple events that could have happened where planets moving in conjunction and close to each other. And someone actually worked out the math on how to have actual planetary alignments.
Wow.
There's another one. Why are we so scared of comets?
Yeah.
Well, if Venus was the great comet, if that's how cultures referred to them around the world, and this is what the scientists are finding, did Venus move in a strange way? Did Aphrodite turn into Medusa and actually produce? Where did the dragon myth come from around the world?
So the myths are what we're going into. Is like the myths are kind of astrologically.
Yeah. Remember, in the old days, astrologers were astronomers, and astronomers were astrologers.
Yeah.
And the Dogon have never left that, and they successfully predicted there was an extra star at the North Star. So there's no reason to disbelieve them. They have no reason to lie. If these astrologers in China and in Egypt, which is where the Dogon used to be, if they predicted these things, what else did they record? And we see things. We see in the Bible days not ending where the sun doesn't go down, or days change directions.
Yeah.
Chinese emperors beheading astronomers because they couldn't explain why things were changing.
Yeah.
Did our sky rapidly change? Why is chlorophyll green when the sun puts out more green energy than anything? If anything, it should be purple.
Right.
So where did we come from, and what is it really about? Our planet
what does it all mean?
What does it all mean? Our planet is tilted. It shouldn't be tilted.
Let me check and see if we have any more questions. Hey, Melissa. So you guys in the comments section, Arwen Careaga's put the YouTube channel that we mentioned. So you can pick up that YouTube channel and subscribe right now if you want to, and pick up some more of the episodes from this later. Cynthia says, even shapes in Peru only seen in the sky.
That's right. The Nazca lines, of course, very famous, not having any basic explanation, but possibly, and also these huge geometric shapes right here in Ohio.
And this
the Serpent Mound's the biggest one. It's the biggest one in the entire world. I have a hard time believing that people just got together and spent all their calories on producing these things for fun, because they didn't live in them.
Right.
They didn't live on these mounds. Right. They didn't have castles. They weren't forts. When they call it Fort Ancient, that was the Westerners thought it was a fort, but it wasn't actually a fort. We don't know. We don't even know what these people called themselves.
Do they know if there's any burial?
Sometimes in the longer mounds, usually there's burial underneath of those mounds. Okay. Usually royal families. But in general, some of these really big mounds, there may not be anything like that. And in the center, at the Newark earthworks, there's again one of those chicken feet. And the question is, why would they put the quote Eagles Mound in the center of this huge 27-acre area surrounded by a ring that nobody even lived in it?
Well, it means something.
I think it means something.
That's
I think the pyramids
out.
mean something. I think that the pyramids in the lost continents mean something, and they're all over.
Which we're finding out that we have lost continents that are being discovered now.
That's right, lost continents, subcontinents. Whole huge areas in Indonesia that went underwater.
So we, oh my gosh, we're past our time. But so let me give you a couple things to consider. If you want to get some updates and to read more about this, just follow Shifu's blog on the clinic website, and that's Blue Lotus Acupuncture in Lexington. Get on the comments section and subscribe to the YouTube channel on there. Also, Shifu, you've got a book coming out, Hidden Destinations in Kentucky. This should be out either 2018 or 2019.
Yeah.
But right now, this is important, guys. There's a GPS ready Google map that's free, and that's these hidden destinations to go to and discover.
Right. Hidden Destinations, INKY. Put it in your phone on your Google, in Google, and then open it in Google Maps app in the app itself, and it'll take you anywhere. 900 and some destinations in Kentucky. I got the best database for waterfalls. You want to see covered bridges? You want to see iron furnaces?
Yes, we want to see it all.
Yeah, and this last weekend I made also a map of these Adena, Hopewell, Fort Ancient, and Mississippian culture sites. And I'll be adding all the hidden destination ones for Kentucky, because a lot of the Wikipedia, they didn't even have the stuff on Kentucky.
Wow.
Right, yeah. Kentucky has literally hidden destinations. We're like becoming a pioneer state again, to be honest with you.
But that's fun.
Our state doesn't even know what we have.
That's okay.
I'm telling you, we don't.
Because we're going to find out. But we're going to put all the links in the comments section. And if you would, just put some instructions on how to get to that free Google map.
Absolutely. And,
okay, so next week, I will actually announce what we're doing next week later on this week. So just stand by. If you like these videos, please share this with your friends. And follow me on Facebook. Every Monday night I do this live stream at 7 p.m. And we're going to do some more. So stay tuned. Hit the notifications. Put see first or see all. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll put that in the comments section as well. If you would like to buy a reading, I will leave my website. And I do email, phone, and video chat as well. So you guys, kisses from Kentucky, and I will see you next Monday night. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Kathryn.
Bye-bye.
Bye.